Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Fake Accents Unite. I do apologise, as though we're 5 minutes late. Entirely my fault. My microphone was having issues, so we fixed those. And hopefully you can hear my dulcet tones, alongside those of course, my co-host of the evening. Good evening, Britisher. Nice to see you.
What time you call this?
What time do I call this? I call this a time. A time in history.
Are you aware what our Scandinavian listeners are going to be telling us as to just how many seconds late we are?
I imagine he's given up already. He won't even be here. He'll be like, clearly they're not going. Good evening, Adam Morgan. Why am I a sneaky bastard? That's what I want to find out. Nice to see Matchstick Mayor, Alex Masters, Russell Burnham in chat, and I'm sure more in the wings. We've had a bit of a weird week this week.
Just briefly, if I can just interrupt you, have you tweeted out that we're online?
I have not tweeted out that we're online. I've been at such
because then I will have something to retweet.
Fair enough. I shall tweet. Have no fear. We're hoping to be joined by the academic agent this week. He promised me that he would come 2 weeks running this time, and he hasn't done either. So we'll see.
Well, you know what academics are like.
Join the Britisher and I as Fake Accents Unite, and live now. There we go. There we go. Even though I haven't tagged you in it properly. There you go. Sorted. Sorry, apologies to folks who are not on the Twitter sphere who have to deal with all of this stuff. Where are we? Okie dokie. Nice to see you, Jared. It's a pleasure to have you listening live as much as us being live. It's always a pleasure. Right, we have a few things which have been going on this week, Britisher. A few things indeed. I have a story which is kind of semi-wholesome to round us off at the end of the evening, but shall we? It's your choice, really. Shall we start with viral outbreaks, conservative Islamophobia, or Turkish migrant crises?
I will choose something completely different.
Oh, go on.
I will choose, Mr. Singer, through his large company, buying what is described as a large stake in Twitter. Have you heard of this?
It sounds vaguely familiar. He's the billionaire who wants to displace Jack Dorsey, right?
Precisely.
Republican.
He was a Republican who was against Trump, but now supports him.
Okay.
So basically, when the primaries were going on and all the Republicans were bashing each other over the head, he will have been one of them supporting one of the no doubt more mainstream candidates, and therefore not liking Trump. Now, like all Republicans, really, he's kind of fallen in line and now supports Trump, if you know what I mean. But with this having happened, a great many people are kind of asking themselves, what will this mean? So first thing, he wants rid of Jack Dorsey. But, we all know that the social media companies are just ridiculously woke. And now along comes a Republican Trump supporter with a great deal of money, and not only wants rid of the CEO, but more than likely will also, at least this is the assumption, seek there to be a little more balance.
Well, one would hope that it doesn't go too far the other way, but yes.
This is too right-wing. You can't possibly say this on our platform. This is disgusting. Get out of here. And now over to Ash Sarkar to give us a lecture on communism.
Well, clearly.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Well, clearly. This has all been a conspiracy since 2017, when Trump invited Singer to the White House, and of course this is where the whole Never Trump thing came out, where he said basically that he was anti-Trump, a never Trumper, and all that sort of stuff. So it's, I guess, he's come around since then, or is it like, according to the conspiracy nuts, of course, it would be that's what that meeting was about. They planned this. They've been waiting for 3 years, and suddenly he's going to come out and do that.
But I mean, it's interesting timing, isn't it? Because we are coming towards elections, and in muscles a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we can, from what I heard, it's said to be a stake as high as 1 billion.
Right. We don't know how much. This is all rumor at this point, isn't
I have no idea. As I say, all I can all I can do is try and recall what I've been reading over the last few days. But it's it seems to be some staggering amount, and you just kind of wonder um, how long term is this? It will be very interesting to see what transpires, because there has been a sort of how do we say sort of rolling situation of 1 week after the other. This is not just in Twitter, also on other social media social media platforms, but people on the political right just having their accounts closed down.
it? Yes.
And this was just happening over and over and over. It's so the closer you come to a general election, suddenly certain political voices start getting closed down. I mean, what's he called? O'Keefe.
Yes, I think.
The chap from Project Veritas.
Yeah.
When people like him suddenly get their accounts closed down, and you think, well, yes, we're now sort of entering into his golden zone, if you know what I mean, because this is exactly where the undercover chap, um, who basically publishes exposés on what the other side get up to. This is when basically he starts getting into the zone where his exposés are of interest. And lo and behold, he has his account closed down. And you just go, yeah, this is very coincidental. This,
Especially
um,
given Jack Dorsey has made note that they are refusing now to publish political ads on Twitter at all. Right? Because
yes, yes, of course, they don't want Michael Bloomberg's money. Yes,
well, not no. And like I can understand it from the headache perspective because things are so polarized at the moment, right? Especially given because of all the drama that happened last time, especially all the flack Facebook got as well. Um, as far as I'm aware, Twitter is still a profit-making engine, right?
yeah.
Unlike some
Is
other.
it? Is it actually? Because I remember always hearing that it wasn't really making too much money, and that its share price wasn't doing too well.
It has made seven. I made £106 million net profit in 2018. So
Oh well, there you go. I stand corrected.
106 even. That was its first profitable year.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
and then it managed to make more last time, even though it's shedding users. Interesting. I don't know whether or not they are hurting for money at the moment. It's interesting though that they had to actually gross over $750 million in order to meet their running costs, etc. I don't see unless someone decides that they're going to finance $1 billion social media company, I don't see an alternative to Twitter rising particularly fast in the near future. However, it's one of those things. So, on the one hand, they've declared that they're out of the political race. Their political reach should be earned, not bought. So, we're not going to advertise any politics. On the other hand, you have this consistent right-wing bias that led to even people like... Did you see the thing with Zuby? Did you see Zuby?
Zuby, yes, I'm aware of Zuby. Oh, yes, Zuby was knocked off Twitter for saying "okay, dude."
Yes. And I thought initially that perhaps there was context to this, which meant that, he said something acceptable, quite possibly. Anyway, I had a chance to chat to the man on Friday, and he said to me, he said, no, I put up my list of, was it attractive, like how women, what should you do if you want to be seen as attractive by a good man? And then some guy said, well, I think your list is bunkum because I'm pretty sure I sleep with far more women than you do, mate. And he just said, okay, dude. And then he got
no,
banned.
I saw that. Yes, I wasn't aware of the sort of the direct context, but yes, I saw that it was basically a tweet that ended in "I've slept with more women than you have," and his response was "Okay, dude." And then the very person who basically brought that about
Mm-hmm.
then complained and then put out tweets. What was it? Pronouns enforced.
What?
Yeah, there was obviously, as is the case in these situations, one then goes and brags that one downed one's opponent.
Of course, yeah.
And I believe this person has already got a Twitter tag called something like pronoun enforcer or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, this was entirely a misrepresentation. So in that regard, it's similar to what happened to the academic agent. Do you remember with the spoon scenario, where
Yes.
the person
Zero
then
tolerance.
afterwards bragged that they were the one who took him down, and that it clearly was entirely a misrepresentation.
Oh, the great David has no. David has slain the great Goliath that is the
Yes,
academic
yes,
agent over cannibalism charges. Yeah.
and I remember I think I was not the only person to basically forward copies of those tweets to Twitter and say, look, the person who got him banned himself is, or herself in the case of academic agent, I believe, is basically saying that this was all a complete sham, but it succeeded in getting this person taken down. What do you think Twitter's reaction to that was?
Go
They also banned the other person.
on.
So rather than actually accept, okay, we've banned someone who needn't have been banned because it clearly all was dishonest. Oh no, we're still keeping that person banned, but we're now also going to ban the other person.
If we unperson the other people, if we get rid of enough people, then they won't really exist, and
Yes,
then we won't have to
yes.
worry about them.
It's a
It
bit like
just
the Liberal Democrats whenever they pass policies.
how long
They
before?
they all applaud. So basically, the motion has been passed, and they all applaud at their political, their party conference, and they applaud in that style with these kind of, sparkles in their eyes, as though they've actually passed government policy or something. Whereas you think, no, you do realize you are the third, well, these days, the fourth party in the country.
Yeah,
Your passing this doesn't really achieve that much.
not at all. No. Oh dear. The Scowen has said 333 seconds late. Had you hit 420 or 616, it would have been better, but still an acceptable number for once.
Can
Thanks,
I
Scowen.
can I basically claim my soothsayer points for having predicted this?
Like it's not like he doesn't say it every single week at this point. He'll even say minus numbers until we reach the point where we are actually to the second on time.
Well, it's what was it? It's I've never actually read the book, but I've seen the film. Um, you know, uh, around the days around the world in 80 days,
Mm-hmm.
in which it's Phileas Fogg, isn't it? He's the hero who goes around the world. But
In
in the film,
79
at
days, yes.
least, in the film at least, so I don't know whether that is derived from the tale or not. He is always unbelievably punctual to the point where he doesn't arrive early and he doesn't arrive late. He
Yeah.
arrives dead on time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make a date with him for 2 o'clock, that is exactly when he will come through the front door of the Reform Club.
Love it.
So yes, but anyway, yeah. So that's what you have. You have to channel David Niven.
Thank you very much, Let's go in. If people are finding that Super Chat isn't working, as a couple of people in the chat have been mentioning to me, please feel free to use the Streamlabs link in the description. It's a relatively simple process. Just uses PayPal instead, and I get to keep 90% of it instead of 70%. And we will still read your message out. Thank you very much. Right. So what have we got here? Speaking of America, where we were in America a little bit, Pete Buttigieg has dropped out of the Democratic Buttigieg has dropped out of the White House run. He's dropped out of the Democratic, presumably it's primary at this point.
Yes.
And people were lamenting this because, of course, he was the first openly gay presidential candidate from a major party.
He was the Messiah, yes. Then again, he may also just have dropped out of the race in order to prepare for his vice presidential, his what do they call that? His running mate.
Mm-hmm.
So, who knows? But Amy Klobuchar, the person no one had ever heard of, has also dropped out.
Oh, yes, that's another name which will clearly live on in Democratic primary history.
That one, I mean, I actually put out a tweet.
Yeah.
Saying, what was all that about?
It's like,
because, as in, I saw one or two of her sort of, speeches at these, that they showed on the BBC. And of course, you can imagine on the BBC, they're glowing about her. A, she's a Democrat, which means she can walk on water. B, she's a woman, which, I mean, even more important. But you kind of watched it and you went, I'm sorry, but who are you kidding? You're in a presidential race? It really was one of those where you just, no. Just not a chance.
I kind of feel like in America, the presidential candidates have to, if they're going to come out of nowhere, right? If they're not one of these effectively political royalty who've been in the game for years,
one of the big beasts,
of the big beasts. Then you have to, if you come out of nowhere, you have to be picked up by the media and you have to come in with some sort of impetus. That means you literally smash onto the scene to the point where you then pick up the momentum. Now, I haven't seen that from any of the Democratic candidates, insofar as I can tell. Unlike the dinosaurs that are, Bernie Sanders, and I presume Hillary's not running this year.
No. I think now we can rule her out.
Yes.
And we've not been able to rule her out for quite some time because she's clearly been toying with everybody. And, given that she would get all the superdelegates and all that, you never knew whether she would actually still suddenly go, oh, well, no, I'm coming in, But I think now we can say, yes, she won't be in the race.
So we know it's between Sanders and Biden, basically.
Are you ruling out Elizabeth Warren, you misogynist?
8% Warren? Yes, I'm ruling out Elizabeth Warren. Even if all of Pete's support and all of Amy's support went into Elizabeth Warren, which, as far as I can tell, they're either endorsing Bernie or no one at this point, then they still wouldn't have. They'd still be 10 points behind. It's not.
Well, I think both Klobuchar and Buttigieg are actually backing Biden.
Okay, interesting.
But when it comes to Elizabeth Warren, I mean, just imagine the Native American vote that she is going to bring in.
Oh, yes.
At least 1,024th of it.
Yes, it's like 1 in 1,024 Native Americans, most of whom don't vote anyway. I love
Which I've only, for the sake of clarity, used that term because usually I always use Indian, but I just thought, given that Donald Trump was parading in football stadia with Mr. Modi, I thought that might be otherwise too confusing.
The Jester has kindly donated £1 through Super Chat. Thank you. It appears to be working. Appreciate that. I don't see. There's no Tulsi Gabbard, interestingly, on the
she dropped out some time ago, didn't she?
So, which is kind of yeah. I'm just reacquainting myself here. But who would you prefer to be the Democratic? Who will crash and burn harder, Biden or Sanders? Do you think?
Sanders.
You want Sanders in?
No. Sanders will crash and burn harder.
Yeah.
Biden is gaffe prone. He's clearly getting a bit wobbly.
I'm not sure if he knows where
Um,
he is,
yes,
or
one
even
does wonder at
if he's
times.
running.
But I think you would be able to sell it as a sort of Reagan project. Oh, you're not voting for Biden, you're voting for the competent people around him who will be running the government. Do you understand what I mean? That's
Oh,
that's
well,
that's how you can sell Reagan for a second term. That
okay.
he's clearly getting a bit wonky by now, and at times he doesn't know where he is. But there will be, there are competent people around him who are running the government. So you're effectively voting for the team, not him. That is incidentally also the way they sold George W. Bush,
Yeah.
because already during the election campaign, it kind of became obvious that he was a moron. But oh well, you've got Dick Cheney, you've got Donald Rumsfeld, you've got old hands in politics, and it will be run like the Reagan administration. So you will be voting for competent people, even if the figurehead won't be so special. So I think that's the way they will try and sell Biden if he becomes the candidate. Whereas with Bernie, I think the parallels are just obvious. I mean, look at Bernie, look at his support. Now compare it to Jeremy Corbyn and his support. So when you're thinking Jeremy Corbyn, you're thinking momentum. You're thinking lots and lots of students.
Hmm.
Then you look at Bernie,
Yeah.
and you see lots and lots of students and lots of young folk on social media getting excited. And you think, this reminds me of something very starkly. And what exactly happened to Jeremy Corbyn again?
He got
So
wiped.
I know people will sort of say, oh, well, but he's not Jeremy Corbyn, this and whatever. But no, in the American political context, he is Jeremy Corbyn.
I see. It's
And
interesting. The
and
thing
to
is,
my
though,
mind, that
I
because
I
sorry,
see.
go ahead.
I see even with that kind of context there, I see. I don't see Biden edging out Sanders, if only because Biden looks like, the YouTube channel, like bad lip reading. Do you know
Yeah.
it? Like he's that, but in real life. So as much as he makes gaffes, he does that. But I don't think that necessarily that the people are going to be convinced in the same way by the people around Biden. Like he hasn't had a term.
No, I fully. But what I mean is that is going to be the attempt to sell him, and I think he will more than likely do a decent running against Sanders, and then of course the entire sort of Democrat Party establishment will be on his side. He is the establishment candidate. He is the former vice president. He is this election's Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
So he gets the superdelegates. So do you understand what I mean? So unless Bernie Sanders just basically makes a runaway success out of this to the point where it's just a coronation, then of course the establishment are going to fall in line. But if it in any way remains any sort of contest, Biden is going to win by default because he's going to get the backing of the party.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I love this. We're just two Brits with very little idea on real American life. We're just commenting
Yeehaw!
on the American.
What are you talking about?
I mean, obviously,
Well, no, I mean,
they're
look at it
colonial.
like this: 1980s. You have Margaret Thatcher
Mm-hmm.
and you have Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Then you have got Bill Clinton later and Tony Blair. So you can see there are parallels in the way the two nations operate.
Yes.
And to the point where, obviously, because we're the Anglosphere, the various sides even exchange advisors and political campaigners.
Yes.
So some of the analysts and whatever basically change from one side of the Atlantic to the other side, according to where the election is being held. So these are very much parallel worlds, and to see the Americans, see the Democrats go down a similar route with Sanders, where they've been going down with Jeremy Corbyn, I'm sorry, people, but are you blind? You can clearly not see this.
Like, yes, you can see. Like, why do you think that something which failed so abysmally, I mean the worst performance since 1935
1935,
in
yes.
this country, would go on to have greater effect. Even if it had greater effect in the US, why would it have such a greater effect that it would win its
Well,
way to victory?
it would need to set its own trend. It would basically need to reverse an existing strong trend and go in the exact opposite direction. As in, oh well, we're the Americans, we're the political trendsetters, the Brits follow us. And you just go, well, no, that's not really how it works. That these are kind of trends that sort of in strange ways emerge. But yes, there clearly are sort of direct parallels in politics when it comes to these big movements and swings. And you look at this and you just go, I'm sorry, no, but this is just Corbyn 2.0, that the same thing is being rerun. And they're running it. You know how the Trump election is seen as the US's version of Brexit?
Mm-hmm.
So now you've got the subsequent election after that in just the same way that you've now had the people effectively double down behind Boris Johnson in order to confirm Brexit. What exactly do you think is going to happen in America? Aside from the fact that they're also sitting on very large economic growth. Now, the economic growth is obviously going to take a dent because of coronavirus and whatever going on.
Yes,
But
but
there are millions of people who are presently in jobs that weren't
not
before Trump came to power.
not to mention, of course, that the UK has just started its move towards making a trade deal with the US, and the outcome of that as well will be used as leverage to kind of keep propelling things forward.
Yes, no doubt.
They reckon that it'll have a 0.16% increase to the UK economy if all goes well, apparently.
Well, I mean, we'll sort of have to see that there is sort of much for muchness there. I think the overall net immediate effect of Brexit will be a minus. So there
Oh,
may
yeah,
be
yeah,
a
yeah.
plus with the Americans.
Well, it was always.
Um,
It might even have a negative effect, generally, like economically,
yes,
overall. But that was the price.
yes, precisely.
That's the
That is the
cost.
price you pay for what you're seeking to achieve. And there is nothing to say that in the long term, that will then not be negated. But in the
Mm,
short term, I can't see how you can have the upheaval of these two systems breaking away from each other and then not being a price to pay.
mm. I can see Object of Hate just cluing us in as well. Given that we were talking about Buttigieg, whatever,
Buttigieg.
Buttigieg.
Or think of somebody. Well, I mean, given he's gay, it doesn't quite work that way. But think of a sort of a Donald Trump character at the Miss Universe contest, and think of him being the booty judge.
Okay, Britisher.
Do you understand? Do you understand what I
Yes,
mean?
no,
Do you
yes,
see where I'm
Britisher.
going
You
there? And
don't need to.
like that, you can kind of keep the
Right. Yeah, yeah. The booty judge it is.
yeah, like that
But
you can keep the name in your mind. Yes.
but Object of Hate mentions that Fred Karger, the presidential candidate, Republican presidential candidate, in 2012, was actually the first openly gay candidate. But the press aren't mentioning that.
Oh well, no, he doesn't count. In just the same way as Margaret Thatcher was never the first female prime minister.
Yes, indeed. Of course. They've got Theresa May making a stand for women everywhere, and failing miserably.
Oh,
Nathaniel.
talking of making a stand for women everywhere, I mentioned this in the week that was. I've since seen it repeated, this time in the House of Commons, by some lickspittle Tory standing up going, "Does the Prime Minister agree with me? Sexism this, sexism the other." No, folks. When it comes to the contest of what is going on with Priti Patel in the Home Office, it is a question of, is she actually trying to bring about change? Is she trying to bring about reforms? And the civil service are throwing out accusations in order to try and resist those reforms by either weakening her or getting rid of her? Or is she in fact a bully who,
Or
basically,
both.
or both? But nowhere into that equation comes the question whether she has a penis or not. The idea that this is sexism is ludicrous. And
Yes.
the accusation of sexism here is now coming from the Tories.
Oh, yes, they're calling it racist, sexist. Racist and
And
sexist.
you just go, look, folks, one moment we get talk of, oh, well, you see, we have to get rid of this cloying political correctness. We need to get away from all this. And then the next moment, when it's opportune, one then suddenly uses this in one's defense, and you just go, no, sexism doesn't even enter into this.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I find that somewhat irritating, to be honest.
It irritates me as well. At the same time, when you get the right wingers who are saying, like, well, we need to. I mean, Sargon was saying the other day, well, we need to throw the accusation at them. It's what they would do in our position, as if debasing yourself and making yourself as bad as your opponent is the way to win. Which
Well,
I don't think
yes,
it is
but
in this
as I say,
regard.
that's precisely what you're trying to get away from.
Yes.
So if you basically
You
adopt,
can't use
adopt
the
it, and
sorry,
both
Pritchard.
sides are doing it.
You can't use the moralistic busybodying tactic in order to win. In order to abolish the moral busybodying tactic, in order for the next election you to get completely shafted by the next set of people who pick up the moral busybodying tactic. It's not that. Like, I don't think it's the way to win if you want to effect real change in tactics.
It also means that you're not giving the populace at large any choice. Because I think more and more the populace is actually falling in behind the view that they're sick and tired of this. Can we please give up on this crap?
Yeah.
But instead, you just basically go, no, we're going to use the same tactic because it's been successful so far. Yeah.
Yes. I'm just going to move us on. Let me see. The Invidious Envy says, I'm still surprised that I now have my own page and article section on Know Your Meme. I have made it onto the normie internet as a result of the fallout from the Sue, You're Shouting at Tea episode. Are you familiar with the Sue, You're Shouting
Oh yes, the Yorkshire
episode?
Tea Wars. Yes. Sue, you're shouting at tea. It's one of the grandest tweets ever made. But they were on quite good form. They were on quite good form that week. It wasn't just Sue, you're shouting at tea. They also came up with some other absolute classics. So whoever is in charge of their PR on Twitter has just done an absolute storming job at the moment. Because no, it really was. It really was something special. So one I also highlighted, aside from Sue, you're shouting at tea, was so this was the tweet that came out from some irate non-Tory. I've stopped using Yorkshire tea since then, as I don't want to use a product that received publicity from a xenophobic, fascist, racist political party. I got rid of Yorkshire tea from all 3 of my offices and from home. All staff and other family and friends feel the same. And Yorkshire Tea replied by saying, why not build a guy from the boxes and burn it on the lawn? That way we'll really get the message.
Chat saying Hitler drank tea. That's right.
So basically, why don't you build a wicker man out of Yorkshire tea boxes and set it alight? That way we'll really get the message of how you don't like us.
Amazing.
You have to sort of say, yeah, it really was. I mean, did you catch the rant when they were saying, Sue, you're shouting at tea?
She said something along the lines. Yeah, let me read this out for people, because I wasn't familiar with this until yesterday. Really, it says it's been a rough weekend. On Friday, the Chancellor shared a photo of our tea. This is Yorkshire Tea speaking. Politicians do that sometimes. Jeremy Corbyn did it in 2017. We weren't asked or involved, and we said so the same day. Lots of people got angry with us all the same. He said, nothing to do with us, people of all political stripes like our brew. And there's no way we'd intentionally stick ourselves in a Twitter storm on a Friday afternoon. It's nearly home time. It's like, that's Yorkshire tea effed. Ha ha ha. I can't wait for 500,000 Labour Party members to boycott. If you're the spokesperson for Yorkshire tea, then with respect, you need to refine your PR skills. That's the kiss of effing death to that brand now.
Oh, it came in fast and furious.
Looks like Tetley is back on. And then Sue Lane said, Corbyn was a government minister in 17. Must have missed that. Hi, Sue. At the weekend, you criticised us for saying something we didn't do, and now you're criticising us for something we didn't say. From one human being to another, would be okay for you to stop now. Hi, Yorkshire Tea. Why not put someone on who clearly understands Twitter? My original tweet was tongue-in-cheek irritation at a Tory using someone's product to promote himself. Others were in support of blah, blah, blah. There are a lot of people.
Ever more clear as you go on.
Just keep
how
going. It's
not tongue-in-cheek it was.
One,
two,
4 tweets. I was saying it's like. Eventually, it's like the last thing I want to do when I'm making a drink of tea is to think about who the Tory was who was blatantly advertising your tea, paid or otherwise. I will be going to continue to grow the rich-poor gap, the extension of which will be the real legacy of their regime, along with the 120,000 reported austerity deaths, contested and debunked, by the way. You have your wish. I have responded. Sue, you're shouting at tea. Please do look after yourself and try to be kind to others. We're going to mute you now.
It was just priceless. I'll say, for those people who have no idea about this, you need to understand this was a 4-tweet rant. It didn't.
Someone wrote 800 words.
It didn't fit into 1 tweet or 2 tweets. She needed to extend it into 4 tweets, and
God.
in it were the 120,000 related austerity deaths and privatizing the NHS, and I mean, you name it, it was in there. But of course, she was merely commenting on her previous tongue-in-cheek comment, and you just go, no, we can really sense how tongue-in-cheek your previous comment was.
Yes, I love some of the comments here, which is that Sue, whilst you're at it, any chance you could find a cure for the coronavirus? Are you okay, hun?
It was priceless. As I say, I advocate they should get an award. If there is such a thing as best tweet or whatever, they should definitely be in the running with that response. Sue, you're shouting at tea is just perfection.
I hate to tell you this, but Tories also drink water. I know, Pet, the sheer audacity of it is astounding. I mean, how dare they drink the same fluid as us common working folk? Scum, the lot of them. You know you can get help for your condition, Sue. And loads of people spamming pictures of Jeremy Corbyn holding a big bag of Yorkshire tea.
Well, I mean, that's what they said in 2017 he did the same. Yes.
And of course, Boris Johnson coming out of his house with a rack of tea on mugs of tea. I'm just here to bring you a mug of tea.
Cream egg mugs, weren't they?
Chad cream egg mug, yes. I was just like, yeah, good grief. Many of the here we go. Hashtag 60% leave a light on for Scotland says, many replies in here are just from paid trolls. Best blocked.
Russian bots, yes.
I agree. I will not be buying tea which was used by a Tory minister as advertising, and to make him look all homely when they have 10 years of cruel austerity behind them. Hashtag IndieRef2.
Well, as I say, the reason this is so funny is because there is something of Trump derangement syndrome about this.
Yeah. Tea derangement syndrome. Yorkshire tea derangement.
Just basically Tory, and their eyes start glowing red, as in sort of, oh God, a Tory drinks this, a Tory uses this product, somebody ought to perhaps inform them that, as you say, that they drink water, but perhaps be more subtle in your approach and just advise them that Tories use toilet paper and see where they go.
All you need to do is get them to pose with various brands on TV, and then you can effectively identify all the people walking around scratching.
Precisely. Yes, I like that.
With an itchy
So
bum line.
Get a bunch of Tory politicians together and just have photos of them posing with various brands and make those brands untouchable to anybody who is a Labour supporter at the moment.
I love this last one. I'll just say this last one. Hi, Sue. I hope your recovery continues to go well. Keep practicing with the anger management control therapies and do keep your eyes on a brighter tomorrow. Very best wishes. Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah, no, that's just perfect. I mean, the fact that it is something just as simple as tea and as quintessentially British as tea. No, it just, I don't know. It's
the next thing you know, it'll be tea in the harbour. You know what? It's coming. That's what it is.
you should have Tories sort of pose with, I don't know, Jacob Rees-Mogg with a bottle of malt vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
And just basically find things that are sort of typically British and just have Tories, Worcester sauce,
Yeah.
Priti Patel with a bottle of Worcester sauce and things like that, making all these things completely untouchable because Tories are using them.
No one can drink. No one can have HP on their mashed potato anymore. I'm just going to find the meme which was used to represent this, which has just been linked to me. 1 second. Grief, where is this gone? Show me in the folder. Documents. Okay. Perfect. I'm going to pop it in for you on the stream chat, Britisher, so you can see it as well. There we go. Oh, that's not it. Excuse me. You can see it in general, I think. It says, "You're shouting at tea, Susan." And it's a picture from Blackadder. Do you see it?
I can't see anything right now. I'll basically see whether it's coming up in the video with a delay. Delay, sorry.
Let me, again, let me pop it in stream chat. There we go. That should come out momentarily.
Oh, yes, I can see it now in the actual, on stream. You're shouting at T-says, yeah, it's Stephen Fry, isn't it?
Indeed. As loud as possible. Scowen says, Britisher is happy, from Magog of Moscow. Let me see. Rory Herbert, Tommy Robinson has been arrested. I will have to mention this in a moment because this is awkward now because I met him on Friday and we were. I can explain this now that things have been going on. I didn't realise it was him who'd been arrested, but no, I went to the opening of Hearts of Oak, which was kind of in the same week that the Free Speech Union officially launched, which is Douglas Murray's pet project. Sargon, Tommy Robinson, some ex-staffers from UKIP, including Alan Craig, who was the Children and Families Commissioner, set up a kind of free-form thing to basically support British values and to kind of be a push for against different issues which are in the cultural zeitgeist. So we had things like the biggest project that they were going to start doing is put pressure on the government to release the latest grooming gangs report, because of course that was being squashed by the civil service as not in the national interest. So they want to keep it in the conversation and push to get that revealed, because they reckon that it basically cements everything they've been saying. But Tommy Robinson being arrested, let me see that. Of course, for saying his name on stream, we've just been instantly taken. taken off air. Let's see. Tommy Robinson was arrested 1 hour ago he's arrested for common assault after a row at Centre Park swimming pool. Allegedly smacked a man in the face at Woburn Forest Resort. Interesting, seeing as I was supposed to be going to Germany with him at the end of the month. The anti-Islam campaigner, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, as they always like to say, who's visiting...
They always like to point that out.
They love to say
we've
it's
done
like
research.
they
We
never
know that actually his name is Yaxley Lennon,
but they never point out why he put on a pseudonym. He also used to wear a mask when he was first going out there, and this was because he feared for his safety, understandably. He was visiting the Woburn Forest Resort when he confronted the man as shocked families looked on this afternoon. He was then released pending further inquiries. I've seen that he's put a video up, but I've not seen any further details. Let me see here. No, and Daily Mail doesn't have any further details either. So if anyone's got anything on that, I'm sure we can chat about that at some point. Apparently someone pinched his daughter's bottom, and then he confronted the man and got in a fight. That's what chat's saying to me. I mean, I can see it happening. The man's fiery, and understandably so, but as I say, I don't know anything more about it. We'll have to check it out. Bill Whitaker as well is saying that he's just released a coronavirus protection app. So if you link that to me anywhere, it's called WooFlu, apparently. So if you check that out, what's that, Bill Whitaker? Let me see. WooFlu Co. UK. So if you check that out, see if it's any good, let him know, etc., etc. George says, lefty outrage at Yorkshire Tea is understandable. Many corporations are all too happy to denounce users of their products and services, Twitter, Patreon, Stripe, etc. Yes, we saw with Gillette, in fact, didn't we, last year, and they took a massive hit, although, unfortunately, as they're a part of, what's it called? What's the big company that owns Gillette Britisher? Do you remember?
It's not Glaxo, isn't it? It's
No.
somebody else.
No.
Pass.
It is Procter & Gamble, P&G. So you would have to boycott an awful lot of other products, including things like Unilever, Nestle, and that sort of thing.
It was sort of debatable whether the hit was actually due to the backlash of that advert.
You reckon?
In all fairness, yeah, there were various. I remember some article kind of trying to point out that yes, they were effectively talking, having to do write downs anyway. So I think too many people immediately sort of jumped on the go woke, go broke bandwagon. I think one always has to be sort of careful of kind of trying to interpret everything, the way that it fits into a certain narrative. So I'm not sure whether that was really directly related to that at all.
I don't know. I don't know. I boycotted. I know a number of people who did, but obviously we live in a certain kind of bubble. I don't know how many people decided to do it long term.
I didn't have to boycott them because I use an old safety razor.
You don't need to shave your brain in a jar.
Precisely, yes. Yeah. No, it's just when you come to think of it that you can actually get a closer shave with a good old-fashioned razor blade. And when you then compare the cost of a razor blade to one of these cartridge things you put on one of these Gillette shavers, you just go, no, I think I'm quite happy with this. Thank you very much.
Fair enough. Put a message in the chat if you stopped using Gillette products because of the go woke, go broke, get woke, go broke thing. I'm curious. Oh yeah, sorry for saying Unilever. That's of course the other massive brand.
But you do sort of see that whatever the outcome of this be, that this is possibly a slightly self-selecting audience.
Yeah. Look, my clearly scientific survey that's going on here Yeah. Do you know what? After last week, so for those of you who were here last week, who weren't here last week, Britisher decided to go off on one about how stats were irrelevant. We should dispense
Yes,
with all
yeah,
stats.
indeed.
That they should never be brought up in public conversation ever again. And that all scientists should immediately be fired and then shot in front of their
But
families.
not just scientists, just academics in general.
Just
Just
academics
that
in general.
their credibility is shot to pieces anyway. Yes.
So there was that. The number of people who were messaging me afterwards going, he just doesn't understand stats. He just doesn't understand stats. And they're just like, kind of like head against the board. Kind of like, how are we going to get it?
I have the silent majority on my side.
I don't think so.
I know that I'm right on this.
I like this. Right, this bit of Fake Accents Unite about statistics is just tragic. Poor Britisher just doesn't get it at all. I think that more could be done, shall we say?
What
to
people
use.
don't understand is that my view is born from the cynicism of age, whereby
You are a bit of a Diogenes, aren't you?
Yes, I was once in the same boat as you are. Oh, no, we can indeed discern this, no problem. Yeah, no, I've long since come to the realization that no, you can't.
Have you been trained in statistics?
I have not been trained in statistics.
That's probably why you can't do it.
Yes, no, it requires the honesty of realizing that no, we're all completely helpless when it comes to a certain level of manipulation.
Yes, but I think it would do well if certain statistical principles could be taught at a base level in the education system, as opposed to, shall we say, drag queen story hour. That would be a good start.
Well, yes, but I still insist that as such, any observation on statistics, by and large, always goes down to having to check the reliability of the underlying information, yada 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 yada. And the thing is, people don't have time for that. The idea that you're supposed to effectively become an expert on every subject in order to distill the basic information, that's impossible, because there is that breadth of information coming at you that at some point you have to be able to rely on the information you're getting. And the simple truth is that with the kind of partisan way that society has developed, and with the sort of professionalization of advocacy, it's gone out the window. So, yes, of course, if you look in great detail into things and whatever, you will be able to form your own opinion. But remember, you will have to do that on every single subject going. And yeah, that just can't be done.
Sorry, I'm just I'm seeing.
But anyway, we're going over old ground, really, aren't we? So yes.
Yes, let's not rehash your
let's
wrongness.
go over just the triumph of my intellect over those.
Let me put it this way, Britisher. The statistics are on my side when it comes to things. DRT is king says, "Howdy, painting a Lord of Change. Britisher tell AA Games Workshop is the ultimate example of Austrian economics. His head will explode from the truth."
I stopped listening after howdy.
I see. You're just sorry, I should have said it in an American accent for you. Howdy! Painting a Lord of Change. No, I can't do it. I can't say it.
So Games Workshop is the ultimate expression of Austrian economics.
Yes, and this will cause his head to explode in many colours. Yes.
Games Workshop, these are these war games people, aren't they?
Games Workshop does Warhammer. Yes, I believe it's Warhammer. Specifically, it's a one particular game for a shop,
game, or is it
for
the
a game
shops in particular,
for a shop called Games Workshop. The fact that it only stocks one game, although to be fair, there are derivatives thereof, but still one game, is a bit of a misnomer.
Yeah, they maybe shouldn't be operating in the plural, should they?
Mm-hmm.
There's one S too many there.
But yes, that's that. I don't know about the context of this, but you just need to tell AA, presumably on Fake Accents Unite. Of course, I'm thinking of the A show. On Unpopular Opinions, the C show, you should tell him that Games Workshop is the ultimate example of Austrian economics, just so that we can all appreciate live on air his head exploding.
I didn't know this Warhammer stuff involved yodeling.
I like that. Can you see Magog in the chat on the sidebar?
Hang on, can I see Magog? Oh yes, indeed, I can see Magog.
Right, he keeps getting upset that I won't call you the gay.
Actually, this actually brings one thing to mind, and that is today they had something on about coronavirus, yada yada yada, and you know how you're supposed to call is it 111? The NHS helpline if you have any questions regarding anything in that respect. And they had some spokesperson on for the NHS line, and it was the campest voice of all times. I mean, it really painfully camp, theatrically camp. And listening to this chap tell us how everyone was doing so well on the phone lines. I really have to congratulate everybody.
You silly goose.
Exactly. And I thought, the one thought struck me, and that is, that's what we sound like to Americans.
Fair enough.
But the Yanks have this thing about the British accent sounding incredibly gay.
Really? I didn't know this.
And therefore, when I heard Mr. Supercamp,
are you sure this isn't it's supposed to be deflection? Because I also hear that the British accent is incredibly sexy over
there. Yes, I mean it. I will let you guess which of the two sexes thinks that the British accent sounds terribly gay.
The ones who are at risk.
But yes, so therefore, if Mr. Magog is out there suggesting that I should be Mr. Gay or whatever, that is more than likely the direction whence this hails.
The going back just briefly to the
I think he also hasn't forgiven me for a certain Hillary Clinton tweet.
Just going back briefly to the Games Workshop thing. Apparently, they used to have more than one game, and everything got slowly cut for more and more Space Marines. They even ditched their fantasy for ground Marines, and they're quite notorious for a crack would be a cheaper addiction business model. So that's the thing there. Pyrrhus of Epirus says, NSO implements high school stats, teen suicide rates up. Of course, it's just the statistically...
I'm still waiting to hear confirmation that Pyrrhus of Epirus has by now actually realized why my comment was one of Albania rather than Alabama.
All I'm saying is that if the teen suicide rate goes up, we're only losing the statistically illiterate, so it wouldn't be a loss in my mind. The chat
Magog of Morscar in the chat is saying, Britisher, it was the Hillary Clinton tweet. I hate you.
Amazing. Let me see what we've got. Apparently, people have lost the super chat button if they're in certain countries. This is bizarre. Oh. We are currently monetized, but only across part of the world.
It's more than likely once you mentioned Tommy Robinson, you
just
super chat button.
I have no idea. As I say, to those of you who do wish to get a message up on stream, please do use the Streamlabs link in the description. It's very quick, very easy, and it does work. The people say, Matthew says, wait, all of the UK is not gay? Mind blown. You do sound like a couple of ponces. What else do we have here? You do sound kind
of those things. It is one of those things that, yes, apparently to a great many Americans, the British accent sounds very camp.
Let me see. Pyrrhus of Epirus again. You do sound kind of like I could beat you up both of you. To which I say, the Britisher is the mixture between a damp rag and a wet lettuce. And, of course, he has the consistency of both. And I say,
Indeed.
come and have a go if you're hard enough. So there is that.
No, yes, I think, I think your description of me makes me sound just that little bit too, toxically masculine.
I don't care. And if that's toxically masculine too, then I also don't care. Pyrrhus of Epirus says, tell Britisher I got it. In response to your...
Oh, well, there you go. See, I'm now heartened to know that we're on the same historical level.
Indeed. Let me see.
And of course, you're completely sort of, completely ignorant about what on earth we're talking about, aren't you, Mr.
Yes,
Statistics?
and I refuse to become literate in what you're talking about. So there's that. And Trollope is saying, no, you sound like Ponces to the English ear too. So thanks for that. People asking what Streamlabs is. Streamlabs is basically what people use on Twitch in order to get donations. It is I think it's a not-for-profit kind of streamer tool, and it allows you to send a message basically via PayPal that comes in on a different interface. But there's that. So, for instance, Matchstick has just sent in $5 via Streamlabs and says, I caught the gay listening to Fake Accents Unite. So thanks for that, Matchstick. I very much appreciate the donation, even if I disagree that you can catch homosexuality from the stream. Must have been something that you picked up in the comments section. Definitely not from myself.
I think I must elaborate, because Mr. Magog seems to be elaborating, that, he was responding to somebody talking about awesome rewards, I believe. So he made a tweet saying, awesome rewards? There is only one definition for the term awesome rewards. Lap dances and cocaine.
I see. This is the kind of person we're dealing with. Okay.
Yes, to which I replied with a picture of Hillary Clinton saying, you asked for a lap dance, sir. In brackets, proving, if anything, that it's always worth being very precise with one's language.
Yes, I think I've been reading SCP recently in my off hours, if you're familiar. Secure, Contain, Protect. And it's basically like internet sci-fi thing. Anyway, there's an item in that which is a genie which grants wishes, but basically you have to be exactly specific. Kind of based off of what's that classic tale where it's like the devil which runs the shop, where you don't pay in money, but you pay because you think you're getting something good, but you get something bad in the end.
Is it the Little Shop of Horrors? I'm not sure.
Needful things or something like that.
I might be completely misremembering.
Anyway, there's various iterations of it through history, no doubt. Anyway, it just reminds me of that. Be specific with your wishes, people. If you ask for a sandwich and you don't ask for a sandwich on a plate, then the sandwich is going on the floor. That's it.
Yes, Magog has just reminded Discordia of how he replied to my tweet. It was a 3-word reply. It simply went, I hate you.
Would that be specifically hate speech against the British? Sounds about right. Speaking of Discordia, though, I noticed that she's joined us in the chat. Good evening.
Good evening.
Pleasure to have you on. Do feel free to chime in whenever and wherever.
I didn't want to interrupt anyone. He's having a little discussion.
In the flow of things, I can see Craig Jovanovich says, Rick and Morty episode, ? Yes, I was referencing that, but I believe that itself is based on an older tale all by itself, called something very similar. It's really irritating. Based on a movie, apparently.
Talking of the title of this show, Fake Accents Unite, you should hear Magog of More Scars. Is it Savannah accent? He will more than likely be able to confirm this. He did quite an array of southern accents when I was when I had the pleasure of being on a stream with him and Undoomed. and I think it's the Savannah accent, which also sort of falls into the possibly gay accents. I think he would more than likely back me up with this one.
Oh dear. Well, we'll have to see, won't we?
Are you in any way familiar with the interdimensional wizard that is Magog of Morskar?
Not particularly,
Not
I'm afraid.
particularly.
I have never seen a Magog of Morskar video, although I do believe I once caught
I
sight
think
of...
he might now see fit to repeat the message he sent me after the Hillary Clinton tweet, and just send it to you.
This is a really convoluted... Are you trying to get more airtime, Britisher, by just like elongating, as I'm doing now in this overly long explanation, and say, like, you can't just say, he's going to say he hates you, Mark, he's going to say he hates you. No, you have to say, I believe he's going to utter a specific three-word phrase from the English dictionary, from the English language.
Well, you know, that's what whataboutery is all about, isn't it?
Water battery. There we go, that's what it is. Right, where were we? I had a plan for this stream. I had things to talk about. I had a whole schedule, but no, it's all gone out the window. Architect of Fate says, can we see this infamous Hillary Clinton tweet? NSO defends the masculinity of coing. Is this a misspelling here? Coing the term puff as to refer to the gays. I assume it's using, but you've written it incorrectly. I mean, I'm not going to defend the masculinity of using the word puff. I'm sorry. I don't use it myself. Not because it's a particularly offensive term, but more, I'm just not gay, so I'm not going to use it. DRT is King says, Manx, Scots, Welsh, Irish, and the Northern accent are just like the German accent. It makes men sound manly and women incredibly sexy. It's the comparison.
I refer to Stephen Fry looking for his mobile phone in a German accent.
I'm not familiar with that skit.
You're not?
Yeah, I can't say that I remember it.
Oh, he actually talked at some point in QI. They touch upon that. And in German, a mobile phone is referred to as
mein
a
handy.
Yes. And
Das
therefore,
ist...
when he is looking for his handy, and he sort of says, yes, that must surely be one of the gayest expressions you can possibly get.
Das ist mein Handy. Yes.
Yeah.
Britisher, I need you to say it now for posterity.
Das ist mein Handy. Where's my handy? Ich habe mein Handy verloren. That's what that's the kind of routine he pulls.
Perfectly clippable as well. Magog of Morskar says Hillary Clinton is starting a podcast. It will be trolled. Amazing.
I need to see this.
I would like to see that if it's going on. Although I don't know if I care enough about the Wicked Witch of the West. If I'm that honest, I'd much rather be on here and say, would you like to talk about coronavirus, conservatives, or Turkey? Discordia.
Let's go with the Kung Flu.
The corona flu, Kung Flu, Winnie the Flu, however you want to describe it. Apparently the world is in uncharted territory, according to the World Health Organization. Its chief said it had never seen a respiratory pathogen capable of community transmission which could also be contained by the right measures. So we've just reached 3,000 deaths. I don't know what that is. Is it
no, sorry, who is saying that they've never seen anything that could be contained? What was the body that actually...
The World Health Organization. It had never seen a respiratory pathogen capable of community transmission which can also be contained with the right measures. As in, I think it's like they've never seen this, but they believe we can still push the virus back. It can still be contained.
Well, I don't know. Or does it basically mean we've never seen anything of this nature that was containable?
No. It looks like he's saying he's saying we can still push this virus back. It's not a one-way street. It can be combated if countries act quickly and effectively, starting with containment measures, but they have no choice but to act now.
As a little side note, I did read an article yesterday where I think it's somebody from Cambridge University was claiming that this virus has come from outer space on an asteroid.
What?
This makes perfect sense to me.
It's Transformer virus. That's what it is. Coming in via meteor.
Let me see if I can find the article. It was fun.
It's
Either that, or he's just travelled here from a different dimension.
alternate. Yes, the alternate Earth theory.
And given
I
that
still
on
like.
the internet I only know of a person who is from a different dimension and who hates me.
I think I saw Magog on a live stream once wearing a lot of makeup. Would that be an accurate summation?
Would the expression "panda eyes" spring to mind?
Yes, that does indeed spring to mind.
That is indeed Magog of Morsgard.
That
Yes.
sounds about right. I may have seen him on a stream once or twice.
But I believe he also has a private persona.
And you don't say. You mean his personality isn't entirely contained within the eyeshadow?
Yes. It how shall we say, there is perhaps a certain aspect of sort of heightened persona going on when he's in full drag, for want of another word.
Should I should I bring him on the stream? That's what I'm wondering.
Well, there you go. He can then give us his Savannah accent.
If you would like to come on the stream, Magog, then do feel free. You shall find a link to the Discord in the description, at which point you'll be given appropriate permissions and can jump in the chat. So there's.
I have just sent you a link in DM. It is the Express, so it's, take that how you will.
Oh my!
Quite a fun little headline.
Well, it's certainly more entertaining than the depressing articles I have on the coronavirus, which is saying 90,000 cases worldwide, although 90% of them remain in China. And Italy has now got nearly 2,000 confirmed cases.
Hasn't the Pope got it?
No, he has a mystery illness.
I thought it was confirmed. I thought it was confirmed yesterday that it is.
Oh, really?
Coronavirus.
I didn't know that. I can't see anything here in general, because you'd think that would come up in the general chat, or in the general BBC article, but apparently not. Yes, so this is the Express. Coronavirus came from meteorite which hit China last year, scientist claims. It says bombshell, scientist claims, although I assume that's just sexism on the Express's part. Coronavirus is carried into the Earth's atmosphere on a fragment of comet, which spewed out hundreds of trillions of viral particles. We're going to get wiped out by the thing from outer space, or indeed by excuse the background noise there, someone with a loud and noisy motorcycle. Or in fact, we didn't realise that War of the Worlds was effectively going to be carried out in reverse. We don't, the aliens don't get felled by a virus. They send one here and it wipes us out in advance. So there's that.
Well, I mean, when you say it's going to wipe us out, it's specifically not going to wipe us out.
It's going to wipe out 2% of us, British.
Well, no, I mean, even if you get it and they basically have to hit you with a grenade launcher and a flamethrower, the parts of you that sort of splatter the walls are then just basically going to grow crab limbs and crawl away.
Or we, in fact, would grow some sort of plant-like appendages, and we'll have an invasion of body snatchers going on. If you're familiar with that classic tale.
I'm familiar with that classic tale.
Marvellous. This is
but I think we have also learned that you are familiar with the classic tale of The Thing.
Object of hate again, shutting you down, Britisher, for your rampant fake news, and in fact Discordia too. The Pope was back on duty yesterday, so probably not coronavirus infected.
Well, yes, I didn't say he had it, and I was actually, whilst the talking was going on, entering coronavirus and Pope, and yes, that there's nothing to suggest that there's been any confirmation of the Pope having coronavirus.
Someone lied to me.
I'm just so used to you being wrong, Britisher, that I thought that I would correct you. So there is that.
I love how British is getting the blame. It's wonderful.
British gets the blame.
I'm quite sure if a significant part of the world population gets wiped out by coronavirus, I'm going to get the blame for that too.
So according to the Centre for Disease Control, the symptoms of coronavirus are fever and dry cough after 2 to 7 days, mild breathing difficulties, gastrointestinal issues, diarrhea, and aching. In severe symptoms, you will generate a high fever of 100 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. I'm not up to speed on my Fahrenheit to centigrade switch table, so someone can correct me on that. Pneumonia.
37.8 degrees.
77.
37.8
Okay,
degrees
okay. I
Celsius.
didn't realize it boiled flesh and bone. That's what I was going. I was like, but the temperature that human flesh cooks at is 68 centigrade. So I thought that perhaps 77 was a bit bad. But no,
That'd explain the deaths.
It would. Also, the smell of pork everywhere around Canary Wharf. Pneumonia.
Would it smell of pork or would it smell of chicken?
Well, it's long pork, isn't it? So of course it would smell porky. Pneumonia, kidney failure, and death, apparently. Of course, the huge issue with it is the massive infectivity of the thing. Aside from anything else, men also appear to be more at risk, especially if they've had respiratory issues in the past.
Well,
But,
finally, there's a place for us on the progressive stack.
What's that?
Apparently, the link isn't working for Magog. Have you got a new one?
Sorry, what?
Apparently, the link to the Discord isn't working for Magog. Have you got a new
that's
one?
not
I
great.
don't seem to have permissions to generate one.
Yeah, of course. Why would I give you permissions in my server? You've already got enough permissions in your.
Well,
in
to
your
add
own.
to my collection, obviously.
So, for those of you who don't know, Disco runs basically every YouTuber's Discord at this point, which is kind of ridiculous.
I just keep finding more.
I have updated. I'm just going to update the Discord link. New Discord.
There he is. He has appeared.
He has appeared now. Marvelous. Let's give him the Saint role, and he should be able to pop in here now. So there's that. I like how the people who are not, like EJP, who's a regular in the Discord, who's clearly not watching fake accents at the moment, is like, hello, newbie. Amazing. So, there is that. Again, apologies for the... Let me just pop the window closed.
You live close to Silverstone, do you?
No, I just live next to a road. Oh. I almost said where I live then, like complete self-docs. Imagine. Yeah. Nathaniel Baker says there was a news story up for a short period of time that claimed the Pope had the virus. This was later deleted, published by a disreputable online source, but you can find the page on various archive websites. So there is that. Trollop7 saying, I want to see those panda eyes. Right, let me just get rid of the image on there, and hopefully Magog can join us as and when he wishes. He does have appropriate roles now. So there is that. I'm just going to give him the fascist role. There we go. Okay. So, anything else we want to say on coronavirus being carried by Meteor, Day of the Triffids, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, all of this sort of sci-fi stuff for that?
Well, given that it seems to be a type of virus that we've already seen, if this one came from outer space, then wouldn't that, by definition, mean the others also came from outer space?
You would think so, yes.
Yeah,
This is quite similar to what we have now with flu, isn't it?
So SARS would have had to come from outer space, and the lesser-known MERS would also have had to come out from outer space.
Little do we know, we are simply no more than a intergalactic petri dish, having occasional samples deposited on us. So there is that. Last thing that I want to go over with coronavirus actually is how is the UK planning for an outbreak? So an increasing number of coronavirus is being seen. I think we're up to something around 40 now. And apparently the spread of the disease is likely, although that's a government proclamation, so you can't trust it. Good evening, Magog of Morskar.
This is not my account.
Is this what? Did you make a new account, or is you just?
I just like your link wouldn't open my Discord. It wouldn't connect me to my Discord, so I had to just be like sign in as a guest. So I'm like number 1580. I am the Borg.
This makes perfect sense to me. I'll have to strip you of your
So
privileges.
that explains why at the moment you've got a sort of on Discord you've got a Discord logo avatar.
Yes. I don't have I'm not logged in. Like your link wouldn't work for me. Like I click on it, it'd be like you have to download Discord, and I'm like, I fucking have the Discord download. I'm like 18. I've used Discord for 2 years.
It's like, I'll have to ensure that this account is summarily taken and executed after the stream, and then we'll have to sort out your proper account getting in here.
I don't know what the deal is. Like, I click on it. It's like, would you like to open Discord? Yes. And it's like, you don't have Discord. I'm like, you motherfucker.
The streaming protocols have effectively banned your account from Discord for all time. That's what it is.
Have you noticed how just immediately on arrival, Magog of Norsgar has raised the standard of English the instant he came in?
Yes, I'd rather like that.
People are saying, is the sound gone? I hope not, because the sound seems to be coming through fine for us, but we'll see. Apparently you sound like an imposter, Magog. Is there any way that you can prove to us that you are the real Magog?
Oh, for the love of God, shut up! Ugh.
I shall take that to be a yes, and here was my catchphrase, which you've never heard of before in your entire life.
This vexes me.
I can also do
As I said, there is there are sort of there is the heightened Magog persona, and then there is the perhaps slightly less heightened Magog persona. That's the only way I can put it.
There's the magical necromantic wizard. That's the only necromantic wizard on YouTube. And then there's
Poe, who is the dead raven that talks to Magog and calls him a fat retard.
And then there's the Southern Hick. That's me.
I like the idea that you and Uzlu are kind of caught in an endless conflict for all time.
But unlike
can say that
Uzulu, of
Uzlu's,
course,
a
Magog
necromancer.
is a wizard who came here on a coronavirus-infected meteorite.
In fact, he is the coronavirus incarnate, surely. So it made flesh, as they would say.
I am Winnie the Flu.
Winnie the
Shout
Flu.
out to me.
No, that's Xi Jinping. Don't take that away from him.
Surely, yes. I was just thinking the same thing.
The what is it? A friend of mine is going to go visit North Korea of all places, and we were talking about ways that we could get him arrested whilst he was there. And one of the ways was that we sent him along with the question to ask Kim Jong Un, which is obviously if Obama is Tigger, Xi Jinping is Winnie the Pooh, are you Eeyore? And that could go through to see whether or not Kim Jong-un appreciates being compared to a depressed donkey without a tail. So there's that. Stooge McDuck33 said, please use the correct emergency contact number for coronavirus. 011899988111725. Thank you very much for that message.
When you've dialed all that, that's when you get the menu. If you have this, press 1. If you have those symptoms, press 2. If you have...
There was the case of the chap who didn't have coronavirus, who was sent to a he was sent to a hospital when he said, "Oh, I think I have coronavirus," and they said, "Oh yeah, go to the waiting room at your local GP surgery or your hospital or something like that." Also, for those of you who don't know, that's the number that was just shown up was I knew I recognised it
from the IT crowd, isn't it?
IT crowd reference. Oh yeah. But no, he was sent there, and then he was just sitting in the waiting room. At which point, after 4 or 5 minutes, someone comes out and says, "What are you doing here? You have to go home." And everyone, and they sort of sit out. Someone in a hazmat suit comes out into the lobby and escorts him home, in some kind of protective vehicle. And
sounding
then,
like Darth Vader.
Whilst everyone in the waiting room is sort of looking around in shock, he then gets sent 4 hours later to come back to the same hospital. He comes back, and gets put in an exclusion pod in the car park. But he's going, this is complete. On the one hand, he's going, this is pure incompetence from the hospital. On the other, did you not think when you were told by the operator to come into the public waiting room with all the other sick people, that perhaps it was a good idea to question this order and say, are you sure you want a potential coronavirus patient inside your hospital? I don't know, it was in the Metro, I was reading it yesterday. It seems utterly bizarre in any case.
I lived in England for 5 years. I don't trust any of your fucking news.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Speaking of fake news, let's go and says, NSO, I thought you were used to military intelligence. Can you really accuse others of spreading fake news? Well, I'm used to military intelligence being wrong, so I'm familiar with all forms of fake news. Thank you very much.
Military intelligence, that's an oxymoron.
Indeed, that's what we used to say to them. Indeed. But yes, I think that's quite enough on the coronavirus. We have something interesting coming on. I say interesting. It's the Conservative Party have been accused of Islamophobia again. So you know how the Labour Party...
God, it must be a day that ends in Y.
So you know how the Labour Party is constantly being accused of anti-Semitism, and this is being backed up by claims that of minutes and transcripts and recordings which come out of their party member meetings where people are literally saying, "Be quiet, Jew," and telling them that they're going to come for them and that sort of thing. And meanwhile, their counter proposal from the Labour Party is to accuse the Tory Party of Islamophobia, to the point where a list which contains more than 20 names, which says to me that it contains less than 30 names, probably less than 25, which is also understood to contain names which don't belong to the party, which has come out from Hope Not Hate, showing anti-Muslim online comments made by Tory members, including 6 councillors, apparently. More than 20 names, but not all belong to the party. The Tories instantly suspend those who are party members, pending an investigation. Now, it says something that a group as biased and kind of racist and also just inflammatory as Hope Not Hate, which will accuse you of saying, if you accuse you of Islamophobia if you say, I don't like headscarves when it's a sunny day or something like that, can only find less than 20 Tory party members, even if 6 are councillors, out of the Tory party membership, which is somewhere in the region of 190,000 members. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't appear to me that the Conservatives have a particularly Islamophobic problem, even if we were to accept that such a thing exists in the first place. If they can find they can barely find double digits of people who are committing such an offence, as it were.
Well, I have to police myself though, because you're all English, and I'm not used to, police showing up to tell me to watch my mind thought. Like police showing up and going to your house, be like, we have to correct your thinking.
Yes. We just need to check
some things online.
We just need to check your thinking. That's all it is. It's just to check your thinking, because sometimes some little boys and little girls are born with the brain of a little girl or a little boy, but it's not necessarily their original sex, and you have to believe that, or it's hate speech.
Police. I live in Arkansas. If police showed up to my fucking door out in the country, we have to check your thinking.
They wouldn't survive very long.
No, they wouldn't. Fuck off my property.
See that no trespassing sign?
Oh dear.
But when it comes to this, Tory allegation, I mean, to what extent do we really believe it is genuine all along? Or to what extent do we believe it was simply a counter-narrative that was being launched by people from the Labour Party at a time when they were under pressure because of anti-Semitism. So that, it's, oh, well, they do it too. That's effectively the narrative that is being presented.
But, like, you are really racist against Jews. Yeah, but he doesn't like the Muslims. That's what I'm getting from that.
It does sort of come across that way.
And not to mention, I think we've some examples here. So the accusations range from something which I would say is genuinely some sort of an incitement to violence, right? Which would say Muslims do not deserve human rights as we understand them because of their animal-like behaviour, right? That's a tarring with a brush. I can see that as being, like, I still defend their right to say it. I don't think they should be potentially suspended over it, but I think that definitely that's something which I could see Hope Not Hate flagging. Another one was a council candidate suggested it wouldn't be a bad thing if Muslims left the UK, noting that they can't quote him on that because apparently it was implicitly suggested. So that's the level of policing.
It's something they inferred.
Yes. And as that.
It's difficult to kind of argue on direct racism for something that you can't even quote, because so that quotation that you just gave there is something they actually inferred as opposed to something he actually explicitly said.
As far as I can tell, because they won't link to the tweets. Yes. So it's
Discord through the sorry to interrupt. I have to use Discord through the browser.
Okay.
Is my audio like cutting in and out?
No, it's pretty good. It's just I've turned you down a little bit. You were a little loud, but that's about it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you're all good. It's bizarre. And I mean, given that various governments, I mean, we're literally as far as possible from Islamophobic in this country, given that we've allowed a certain two-tier policing system to exist here for, say, 45 years. But perhaps we won't go into that on this stream after last time, where things got very depressing very quickly. So, there's that. Nice audio clip. What did I say that was clippable? Or was it my my comment about the...
Oh, I think it was your mock response of "you do it too."
Oh dear, I hope so. Apparently you've gone quiet, so I'm going to put your volume up again, Magog. Don't worry about it, I'll just adjust things in the background. I really shouldn't tell people what I'm doing, it's boring. Right, so let's move on from this Tory claim. I just don't see anything, like, the point is it's a ridiculous claim, right?
One thing that might be worth mentioning in that regard is that, of course, a major Tory figure has recently just resigned his position, and one of the claims to fame of that major Tory figure is that he is both Muslim, and of course he was also the one advocating for the need for an inquiry into Islamophobia.
Right.
Sajid Javid.
Yes.
So, in that regard, one wonders, could there be a connection in that regard? Do you understand what I mean? So, is this the Sajid Javid fan club making its presence felt? I don't know.
I mean, it's Hope Not Hate, so that's...
Okay, yeah.
So
I think they're probably not a fan of his.
What is this? What is this Hope Not Hate?
Hope Not Hate is an organisation. I think it's US based. I'm not sure, but they basically spend their entire day trying to find instances of people being phobic of various minority and religious groups, and to stamp out racism, etc., wherever they find. Unfortunately, they are also completely insane extremists who will judge legitimate criticism of religion, of behaviour of individuals, to be racism or religious bigotry. They will also take kind of any criticism of any person of colour to be a racist attack. They will take... they've done a lot of...
So it sounds a whole lot like the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yes,
Yes.
they worked
Like-
in tandem together on quite a few projects, actually. Yes.
I
Okay.
mean, they tend only really to take swipes at people on the political right, don't they?
Right. Yeah, it's very biased because
So
like
it's
a Muslim could get online and be like, "Death to America, rape all white women," and they'd be like, "That's just their culture."
Well, they would say prejudice plus it require prejudice plus power in order to be racist, right? So that's
so
fine.
it's not just like the Southern Poverty Law Center. It's perhaps also a bit like Media Matters in the US.
Oh, right. Okay, I get what
You know,
you're
sort of
saying.
really strongly biased activist organization that spends its time looking for dirt for, from right-wing personas in the media or politicians.
I
They're
still can't believe that's a job.
I
like,
mean, like
Activist is a job.
professional hate group, I prefer to call it, but there's that.
So
Apparently,
the Klan.
again, I'm being told Hope Not Hate is UK based and Soros
It is.
financed, by the way. It's
So you were
okay,
doing
yeah.
some fake news there.
but yeah, me fake news, surely not. You just misinterpreted what I said.
Stop it.
I don't do fake news.
Fake news.
Adam Morgan says shouting at tea equals tilting at windmills. What's tilting at windmills?
Don Quixote.
On Quixote, yeah. It's chasing windmills.
I feel bad
I
now.
did love the shouting at tea thing.
I'm like, good grief, what on earth was that noise?
There must be an earthquake somewhere.
Yeah, what is it? Don Quixote thought the windmills were giants. Like he lives in
Yes.
his own imaginary world.
Yes,
Yeah.
He basically lived in this sort of imaginary world of being a medieval knight who must fight for the honor of his lady. And it was Sancho Panza, who was Sancho Panza, was it? I don't know, who was his sort of sidekick, who was effectively looking after him as he was going slightly ever more mad. And at some point, yes, he spots the windmills and decides they are giants. So obviously, being this, imaginary medieval knight, he obviously lowers his lance and charges at the windmills. But yes. Can there be anything more futile than charging at an enemy that isn't even an enemy and is actually just, some building in the landscape? So hence, tilting at windmills was born as an expression.
Yes.
A founding work of Western literature, often labelled the first modern novel and considered by some the best literary work ever written.
It was Cervantes, wasn't it? Yes.
So now I feel bad for having had this particular historical and cultural reference completely pass me by, and I've never heard of it before in my entire life.
And I'm an American from Arkansas, and I knew who Don Quixote was.
From Arkansas, yes.
Well, it's largely sort of seen as a commentary on, Spain of the day, when Spain became a bit of an anachronism. You had all these hidalgos, as they called them, constantly fighting for, defending their honor and whatever. And Cervantes was kind of indicating that perhaps this time had kind of passed, and one ought to sort of embrace modernity a little more, or in those days, perhaps the Enlightenment might be more to the point.
I see. Right. Well, after that, people are saying read it, so I need to read it clearly. So Turkey, we'll move on to Turkey now, I think. Turkey says millions of migrants may head to EU because, of course, the EU is a bit screwed at the moment. The Erdogan was speaking after announcing Turkey could no longer enforce its 2016 deal with the EU to prevent migrants entering Europe, saying Turkey could not cope with a new wave of refugees after an escalation of the Syrian conflict.
I wonder whether the nation of Turkey is ever going to have a referendum on whether to celebrate Christmas.
Me too, definitely.
But when it comes to this story, is it really that Erdogan basically is saying, I can't cope with all these refugees? Or is it really that he's being stuffed in northwest Syria and he wants the rest of the world to do something about it?
I think there is an element of that. I also think that now, even with Britain out of the picture, but we're still paying in, he wants to capitalise on the fact that our money is flowing and whether or not he will be paid, because he was being, the government, the Turkish government was being paid to take in the migrants which arrived in Greece, wasn't it?
Yes.
So
I keep seeing videos of that. Like people are like, the Greeks are like, "Fuck this! Get the tear gas."
yeah.
Like,
So basically, in 2016, the EU and Turkey made a deal where they would get £5.2 billion in EU aid. That's $6.7 billion in order for them to take in these Syrian refugees.
And not just to take those which reached Greece, but also to stop them from moving towards Greece and Europe in the first place.
Yes, although for every Syrian removed from Greece to Turkey, the agreement was that another would be resettled from Turkey to the EU, which is effectively ensuring safe passage. The whole point of this was, aside from to keep Erdogan on side and stop him from massacring Syrians in his country, which was happening at the time, the number of migrants who arrived via Greece were also dying in the water and that sort of thing. It's risky, so it was considered to be a less risky prospect if you say that the gateway to Europe is going to be Turkey's border and you need to go there and then we'll process you safely through that way, as opposed to having you make this ridiculously risky journey across the ocean where you drown, potentially.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes.
People, or would it be cheaper to help
I'm
them
afraid
fix their own fucking countries?
You did cut out a little bit there. Just say it again.
So would it be cheaper to take all these people into Europe, or would it be cheaper to help aid them fix their own fucking country?
Well, that's what we were doing at the beginning. Like, under David Cameron's government, we were funding and also sending NGOs to set up camps on the border with Syria, which would protect the Syrians and hopefully move them back. Because, again, the prevailing narrative at that point, before the whole the narrative was established, of kind of like, Europe is open, the EU will take you all in, look at the golden paradise we have for you, was that most of the Syrian refugees are like, we don't actually want to move that far, we want our homes back, we want our lives back, we would like to not be bombed now, thank you very much, and if you could get rid of the radicals in the area, that would be good too. So the idea was we would resettle them somewhere else, but still within the borders or confines of their own country, and look after them there. But it just seemed to go
That would
downhill.
make sense.
And it was
That would make a lot more sense.
And that was where we were going. Now I don't know what happened, because we were funding money there and it wasn't that expensive. But I think the EU suddenly deciding that it wanted the EU initiative, that they wanted to resettle refugees within the welcoming arms of the European Union.
Well, I think it was also that these migrants are effectively a mix of nationalities. So the idea that they are just Syrians, I mean,
they're not just
we've
refugees.
got people from Iraq, from Afghanistan.
Oh yes, well, this is also why it was massively beneficial to do it on site, at location, because then you knew that you were helping the people of that nation. Whereas
those folks who have been trying to cross the channel in dinghies,
yes,
many of them turned out to be Iranian.
Yes, or indeed sub-Saharan African. So there's that.
Yeah, you're not getting refugees from a war. You're just that. You're
just getting people.
Yes,
well, there's now been
economic migrants.
Exactly. Well, there's been people who've been saying, well, they're refugees of poverty.
Well, I think a similar thing is going on in America, isn't it? Where basically everybody is now being referred to by a sort of people of a certain political bent as, refugees. So anybody hailing from Central America is now a refugee from the sort of inherent crime in that area.
I think that's slowly because, I mean, this might be just my own opinion, but the Democrats are slowly losing the black vote.
Mm-hmm.
So they need like an influx of new people that will vote for them.
that I think that's very much the theory, isn't it? That one is bringing in Latin Americans who then basically have party loyalties towards that side that is argued to allow them in the first place.
Yes.
But I think in that regard, we're sort of seeing a parallel world there. That on both continents, something similar is happening. That one is basically describing these huge waves of migrants as refugees, as an argument to, well, we must take these people in.
So
Yeah, and the problem is they're not like once they're out of even if they are Syrian, once they're out of Syria, they're not really refugees anymore if they're trekking across 5 or 6 different countries and
No.
then trying to channel to Britain. What are they fleeing at that point? What's in France that's so bad?
they're only allowed to, according to this, they're only refugees if they come. Like, asylum is slightly different, right? But refugees are only supposed to travel to the nearest safe country. That's the rules.
Yes, I mean that's where they're supposed to ask for asylum. So in that regard, it is the same thing.
Okay.
But I think it's, what is it, the Dublin Accord or something like that? It's called, in which it's kind of accepted. Yes, you go to the nearest safe country, and that's where you're supposed to ask for asylum.
Yes, you don't get to pick and choose your destination resort of choice.
I mean, there are sort of problems within that, of course, that you will then get some countries that would effectively become overwhelmed. So if you look at the EU, if you basically harbour all of them in Italy and Greece, you could understand very quickly how Greece and Italy would not be able to cope.
Yes.
Yeah, but at that point, I guess you would have them go to Italy or Greece, and then if it's full there, then other countries are like, all right, we'll take some that are already there.
Well,
that's
from
just
there.
it. Who will?
You don't just let them walk across 5 or 6 different countries
They're not
and go
supposed
wherever
to.
they feel like.
They're not supposed to go across many safe countries. But there's also the case of they're supposed to be resettled after the conflict is done.
Yes,
which is
precisely.
not something
Once
which has
it's
been
over, they're actually supposed to go where they came from. Yes.
Muck006 points out to us that the camps were definitely cheaper. However, we, the West, stopped giving the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees money, and then there was suddenly a flood of refugees at one point. This group actually had to cut rations in half due to this funding cut, and that's why they started moving. That's what I'm saying.
Well, if I remember rightly, there are quite substantial camps in Lebanon, aren't there? Which I think the British have financed.
I believe so.
And I've not heard that they've suddenly upped sticks and left all them.
No, but we used to do more up near the Syrian-Turkish border. Pyrrhus of Epirus says, in the US now, and you'll back this up for us, Magog, you cannot have asylum unless you previously applied for it in the previous country.
That's supposed to be the case, but people can also just like walk across our southern border. So
until the wall is built, sure.
That's taking a very, very long time.
Is it? No,
it is just a wall. I mean, it is just a large metal, slatted fence basically, and so people can still dig under it. They can get over it with ladders. The wall is only going to work if we police the wall, if we have enough
Magog, I
people
have
on the border.
A reliable source that is completely untrue.
Is
that
it?
You cannot possibly get over that wall, that ferocious, fierce barrier
fence, if you will.
Ladder. I said something similar once on a live stream with the academic agent, and oh my, was I ridiculed at the idea that one might be able to cross the barrier with a ladder.
I mean, it's just basic like human ingenuity. Somebody would be able to. I mean, I'm not against it though, because it could stop trucks from coming across. People, people like the coyotes bringing fucking slave labor over and and shit like that. I mean, if it does something, let us try. At least it might stop some big trucks and stuff like that. But
when you speak of human ingenuity, there was one particular example that I heard of, and I saw photographs of it, so the thing was real. that I must admit I was quite admiring of. And that was there were some marijuana smugglers on the Mexican side of the border. And this was in an area where there was already a fence prior to Trump's wall coming along, if you know what I mean.
Sure. Yeah.
And what they did is they built themselves their own air-powered cannon
What?
that they mounted on the back of a pickup truck. And what they would do is effectively they would drive up to the border at the same time as the folks receiving the marijuana delivery would pull up with their pickup truck on the other side of the border, and then they would, with their cannon, fire bags of marijuana across the border fence.
I mean, it is a deterrent for people to just walk across. You do have to now work for it.
Yeah, no,
So I'm not
obvious,
completely against the wall.
I like
But
the
when-
I like the idea of just seeing what the Britisher would be like on marijuana.
the goddamn fucking devil lettuce.
You have to
God.
take your hat off. You have to take your hat off to the sort of makeshift engineering challenge of building your own air cannon with which to fire bags of stuff across a fence.
Look, we've all made potato cannons. Similar concept, sure.
We're just talking about people too. I mean, drugs is another thing that just can't really because they can come in through ports, they can come in through airstrips and stuff like that.
I mean,
But people do. I mean, who's going to cross the desert with like a 50-foot ladder?
I mean, I don't.
It makes it harder, at least. You know, it makes it more difficult.
I don't understand why you just don't have a big red zone where you say, if you wish to apply for asylum, here's directions, right? Asylum center, X miles this way, X kilometers this way, whatever. Right? And then if someone
Nobody goes to them.
No. And if the signs, and if you don't use the signs and you're caught in that area, we shoot you in the head. Doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man.
What you could do is
children get directed to the asylum seekers, to the office. If they've got children with them, they get directed to that office. And if they don't stop, they get shot. Kids don't.
Love how people are there's a fence on the northern DMZ or the northern DMZ of Southern Korea, South Korea, because we've been there for 80 years, and they don't cross. The north doesn't cross into the south, and it's like that's because there's a fence with barbed wire, but there's also 10 million landmines.
Yes,
that's a bit of a deterrent, isn't it?
Very large minefield, and also there are shoot to kill troops. Yes,
there's actual that's the thing. When Trump talked about the wall, a lot of people were skeptical about it just being like a big fence like Bush did, and the problem with it is it's a physical deterrence, so it'll be harder to just walk across the desert, but at the same time, if you don't have guard towers and personnel and helicopters and drones flying over and seismic sensors to pick up digging, they dig tunnels, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have all that stuff, just a wall by itself is not with a border that long. It's 2,500 miles or something like that. It's like a massive fucking border. So
yes, you need to police it. You need to actually have somebody to detect someone trying to get over the barrier.
Right.
Other than that, the barrier is worthless. Yes.
Right.
Chat is getting really excited about the concept of auto cannons on the border at this point, and landmines.
Well, I would have a more subtle version that might prove just as effective.
Morse code.
You have giant television screens facing Mexico on top of the wall, playing in an infinite loop. Hillary Clinton performing a lap dance, always
on an
followed by
unsuspecting wizard.
Welcome, visitors, come on in. And I think Magog of Morscar would agree with me that would be a very effective deterrent.
I hate you.
Actually, no, we've changed our minds back. We go, it's not that bad here.
My idea was the Panama Canal is 80 miles. That's a much smaller border. So can we just conquer Mexico and then that's our southern border is like the Panama Canal.
Well, I mean,
it's so much easier to guard.
See, I
In
thought
order to
you were
get to the
gonna.
Panama Canal, you don't only have to have Mexico, you have to have all the other Central American countries.
Oh, because the Panama Canal separates North America from South America, and it's only 80 miles.
They could also.
See, I thought you were gonna build a canal.
all-
and, like,
all we
hurt
need-
Look.
sharks or something.
Look, the Americans just
Sharks
need
with laser beams.
the Americans just need to take a page from our book and milkshake anyone who comes anywhere near the border with a strawberry milkshake, and that clearly will keep undesirables away. Don't you agree, Britisher?
Oh well, of course, yes, yeah.
Yes.
I'm
concrete
very heartened by this 80-mile border because, of course, it reminds me very starkly of something because I believe that's roughly the length of Hadrian's Wall.
People that want like real border security want it to be like a military issue. It's like it's national security. We should have like military bases along the southern border and big fucking T-barrier concrete walls and razor wire and fucking patrol units and
And you can go on holiday there, and they'll give you a shotgun and say, if you see someone, go blam.
but that becomes a deep issue with the left because that's racist, against Mexicans.
So
Well,
they've got a
this is-
sign telling them exactly where to go.
Well, this is also one of the issues, of course, bringing this back to the European problem that we're facing right now. With we've had sort of two sides, haven't we? That the moment Erdogan basically opened the borders and told migrants that they could move. I mean, in some cases, I think the Turkish authorities even bussed people to the border. Those were the land borders. So those are the pictures you're seeing in the news with, tear gas and whatever else being used. But apparently there was also quite a lot of sort of, sea crossing going on.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the sea crossing, particularly with the Libyan model, we have a major problem. Because if you have people going out to sea in vessels that will not get them there. So what do you do then? Because I think for a while the EU had this policy of, well, we won't do anything because otherwise we're encouraging more of them to come. And eventually the Italians, mainly sort of the Italian Coast Guard and the fleet, just said, we cannot do that. You can't simply allow people to drown.
The Italian problem's going to solve itself now that they're infected. So it doesn't matter.
But yeah, I mean, we are facing this major dilemma that basically, if we take them in, they become our problem. If we refuse to take them in,
die.
A lot of people will die, and therefore it's not just the question of the leftists and one will make it will make dramatic television pictures and whatever. You have got this sort of moral quandary, as in, how on earth do you actually solve this? And it's become this kind of $1 million question that I think one knows that one has been too soft in previous years. But on the other hand, yes, when one took the policy of, we just simply won't help, unfit vessels at sea, that more than likely also went too far in the other direction. What is quite clear, I think, if we have another, was it 2016 or was it 2017 where we had this very large influx of migrants into Europe?
2016, really.
If that repeats itself, there will be unrest in Europe.
I mean, you act like there isn't already.
Well, yes, but I think we know that there will be serious unrest, and therefore you've now got this sort of added pressure, that countries like Germany that basically were welcoming people at the railway stations, welcome to Germany, here's a flower. We all remember those pictures.
Yeah.
That will not repeat itself again.
No, well, it won't in particular, because those towns where those migrants went, they were very careful, actually. The Germans were very welcoming, but they set up things like extra centres, for like language development, skills, paperwork to be generated, etc. They set up new community centers, and they had this program. I'm trying to remember what it was called. I don't know it in German, but it was basically like community leaders who were going to.
It was called The Final Solution.
I don't think so. But they were community.
Sorry, wrong Germany. My bad. That was a long time ago.
They were community helpers, right? So their entire job, they're volunteers. They are to help these people integrate and get them on the right track and get them jobs and help them to sort themselves out, see if they wanted to learn German, that sort of thing, and basically make the decision. They wanted to be welcoming enough that if these people wanted to stay in Germany, then they could, and they could, file for citizenship, etc. What they found was these people have absolutely no drive to apply for citizenship. They have absolutely no drive to learn the local language. They had absolutely no drive to integrate or learn local customs, because most of the ones who were actually refugees, and there were a lot of refugees at that time, you might be able to say that by now it's 70% non-refugees, but certainly at the beginning, definitely refugees. They wanted to go home. They're not interested. They don't want to make a life here. They don't like the climate. They don't like the people. They don't like the culture. They are there because their home was blown up by terrorists or the Americans, and they are out of it. They don't care. They have no cultural impetus. They have no investment in the area. They have no interest. And this has only continued. And the economic migrants are somewhat the same as well. So it's just, it's a worthless endeavour, effectively. Anyway, rant over.
That is one of the questions that sort of I would have for Magog. The people who come, these large migrant waves of, largely they're sort of illegal immigrants that come into America, and one believes they're there in the millions. But is there actually, aside from the fact of their being illegal, a desire on their part to be American? And I don't just mean, have papers, but be American as in be part of the American culture.
Some of them, and that's why you'll see a lot of legal immigrants from Mexico who've come here through the front door, because we don't mind people coming here, just use the front door, right? Like, do it right. And they've got their citizenship, and they learned our ways and our national anthem, and they started businesses, and they got a house, and they got a job, and they're taking care of their family. And a lot of those people, the legal immigrants, are fucking pissed at illegal immigration.
Oh, yes.
They are fucking livid because they're like, hey, why are you just giving them free shit? I came here correctly. I did the right thing,
I suppose they're racist too.
Yeah, well, they keep attacking things like ICE and the Border Force, but isn't ICE like majority ethnic Mexican?
Yes, that's what's weird too. Is a lot of ICE agents and like a lot of ICE Border Patrol officers are Mexicans.
But you see, the reason I asked that question was, whether America has the same problem with assimilation that Europe has, because a lot of these migrants, as Nelson has pointed out, that there isn't really the desire to in any way become European.
Yeah, so it's a mixed bag. Some people come here because they want to be American. They want a part of the American dream. They want to start businesses. They want to have good family, a good home. And then some of them are just like, especially like in Southern California, like you'll see stuff on the news like, they're flying the Mexican flag over the American flag at high school, and they're, Viva la Mexico and all that. And they don't learn the language. They won't learn English. They won't integrate into American society. They live in their own little like communes, their own little neighborhoods that are nothing but, Mexican immigrants, and they won't really integrate. So we get kind of a mix of both in America, because a lot of people do come here for jobs and to be a part of the American dream. But a lot of them come here to just like fucking live off the government and then at the same time be like, fuck America sucks,
I think when it comes to Europe, it doesn't help that Europe has run a very effective and consistent advertising campaign to the rest of the world, which is Europe is open, London is open. I mean, Sadiq Khan did London is open the other day. That makes it look like heaven on earth. Now, let's say you live in some shithole country, right? You live in the middle of the desert, and you're there, you're a goat herder or something, and then suddenly terrorists are bombing your town, and you're like, let's get out of here. Where are we going to go? And you're like, well, there's this place which literally looks like heaven on earth, where there's fruit, the land of milk and honey. On top of all the, there's party atmosphere, there's homes for everyone. Oh, it's so good. And then they get here. I was watching Lawrence Southern's Borderless documentary, actually, and the number of people who were like, yeah, I literally thought that I would get here and it would be a cornucopia of everything would be, was free and flowing and so on. And not because, they wanted to take from people, but because they were going, yeah, actually, like, we were sold this image that literally gold paved the streets, and
Right.
and it's sort of thing. It's almost like a kind of Paris syndrome, if you know what Paris syndrome is.
I mean, we get that too. Where like people in LA are like, "Come on down, come on up to LA. We're very accepting." Huge Mexican culture in LA, obviously. Um, and then like Mexican people get there and they're living under bridges and they're
Yeah.
shitting in the streets and there's the bubonic plague. It's like,
California, like, yeah.
yeah. It's like Los Angeles is a shithole. Like, why did we come here? The Mexico isn't any worse or better. Um, it's like I think it's a mixed. I think if you have too much, I'm kind of one of those guys that like I'm very accepting of people. I love fucking Mexican food. Come on, bring it on. I love Mexican culture. I love their fucking beer and their food and their fucking, their even Spanish is like a kind of cool language. But come here and integrate in America. That's what we're about. We're a melting pot. But if you come here and are like, fuck America, just give me a check and, Mexico is better. Well, then fucking go back to Mexico.
Well, I
I'm
think,
kind of a mix,
I think
you
that
know.
is one of those sort of symptoms that is sort of typical of this whole thing, and that is the hostility towards the actual guest country.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like that woman, wasn't it, who got given what was effectively a sizable flat for her and her kids, for free. I should mention.
I remember this story.
This
yeah.
repurposed storage container, I think, with added insulation and stuff like that. But she had a living room, a kitchen, a utility room, and 2 bedrooms. And she was like, "This isn't good enough. Is this how you treat
I wouldn't
people?"
mind that for free.
I'd live in it. Come on, and she had three young kids. It's like, maybe get a job. Like, I get that you're looking after kids, but maybe where's the husband?
I wouldn't necessarily compare that in that regard. I mean, those are just people, for nothing will ever be enough. But I'm sort of more thinking Nish Kumar here.
Right, yes. The wealthy,
Britain is
successful.
rubbish. It's terrible. They never done anything good in history.
Just picked it up. He's picked that up from the self-effacing native Brits who have decided that they want to run us into the ground.
But do you understand what I mean? It's the same in that regard. It's the same as being a Mexican and then telling the Americans to get lost, and you're flying the Mexican flag, and you just go,
"Oh, so fuck off!" That's
why
what you go.
exactly did you come here?
Yeah. It's like don't get me wrong. America is kind of a integrated society. We have many different cultures here. The Irish came here, the Italians, the Jews, the Chinese helped build the railroad. And they settled here, but they did it right. They integrated, they learned the language, they opened businesses. Their culture became part of our culture.
Yeah.
We're getting a massive influx of people from South America who are just like, we're only here for, because those people over there offered us money and free healthcare.
Well, it's the same here. We have the Sikhs who came, and they integrated very well. We have Gurkhas who came; they also integrated well, and they're in many cases more patriotic than we are.
Who was that? Who's that lady? She was in the Avengers, and she was in that.
I thought you didn't watch superhero films.
No. For heaven's sake,
I know which Avengers. I know which Avengers.
And she represented the Gurkhas when Gordon Brown got it into his head that. He was a Labour Prime Minister thinking, oh, I want to seem tough on immigration. So who are the people I won't let settle here? Oh, yes, the Gurkhas. And someone in the chat will no doubt know who I'm talking about, this actress, and she took up their cause. And it was kind of, Gordon Brown needed to discover that the Gurkhas were actually highly respected and very much liked by the British population. And the idea that here were these people who had fought for us, who were being told, oh, no, you can't settle here. You're a foreigner. There we
Yes.
go. Yes. Here with the outlaw, it has just said it's Joanna Lumley. And
Yes.
she started representing their cause. And there was that wonderful moment when the Labour government had to give in. And the Labour minister had to sort of be trotted out. And I remember he was standing on some kind of staircase addressing the press, how this policy was now going to be reversed. And next to him, sort of towered Joanna Lumley, staring daggers at him.
Oh, yeah, she's very tall as well.
Whenever he kind of finished, as in sort of, okay, I've said my piece now, I'll now go and run away.
Yeah.
She would kind of look at him and go, and this is guaranteed, isn't it? Yes. And that is also guaranteed, and you're not going to go back on it, will you? Yes. She kind of pretty much nailed him to the wall.
Amazing.
And it was just beautiful to watch, because yes, the Gurkhas are very popular in Britain, and the idea that they should be told, no, you can't settle here, you only fought for us. Meanwhile, all the other folks we're going to let in. Yes, it was just a complete debacle. But I still remember sort of, she knew, obviously being a very well-known actress, she knew how to play the media game. So she would always be, is it a kukri? Is that the name of it?
That is their enormous knife, yes.
She would be brandishing one of those knives, doing the Gurkha battle cry, Aya Gokaya. And the press obviously just lapped it up. And the Brown government never stood a chance. It was hilarious to see it all fall apart for them in the end.
I love the Gurkha meme, which is there's Gurkhas proving that a big man with a little knife is not nearly as scary as a little man with a big knife.
Well, isn't there a thing with the Gurkhas that if they do draw it, they will cut themselves? And
yes, it has to draw blood.
They place it away. It has to draw blood if it is drawn.
Yes. It's really terrible when it's cooking time and they want to slice onions. Yes. But no, yes, it has to taste blood. They don't normally, when they cut themselves, it's like it's a little thing, right? They might prick a finger or something like that. It's not lacerating their arm or anything like that.
Rory Herbert in the chat has a claim to fame, by the way. He has declared that Joanna Lumley sat next to him once.
Very nice.
I believe Rory Herbert may be a very well-connected person. He's one of these rubber comedies in sort of the extended circle of people watching this thing, I believe.
I'm going to interrupt here and go ahead and say I'm going to bounce.
No problem. Pleasure to have you on.
Yep. I just wanted to hop on and say hi and nice to meet you, Obvious.
Yeah, pleasure.
Discordia, it's always nice, and Britisher, I hate you.
Yep. What can I say? What can I say?
That's not what I... There's one other thing.
Is much appreciated.
There's one other thing I thought you were going to say to him about,
but yeah, I got to go get prepped for SideQuest, my Monday night show, in character and everything. So I got to go get ready for that, and it's going to be an interesting show because I'm not 100% today. So
oh dear,
got the coronavirus, I guess.
I hope not.
I drank a Corona last night and it fucked me up.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. Well, good night.
We hate you too. Yes. Okay.
The Britisher hates you too, but you can come back anytime, York. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I subscribe to your channel. Always nice to meet new people. I like just talking with people, even if we disagree, and it doesn't sound like we disagree on much. You seem like a pretty cool crowd over here. I just like, fucking chilling with people.
Can you do us one favor? Can you say goodbye in that Savannah accent of yours?
I haven't even begun to defile myself, good sir. I shall proceed. I shall proceed to regress to the exit.
Well, that was good. Yeah, thank you very
Take
much.
care, Magog.
Now bugger off.
It's that Doc holiday. Everybody can kiss my rebel dick.
Get out of
Um,
here before I disconnect your ass. Come on.
So yeah, don't forget to delete this Magog because it's not
yeah,
my real account. So
No problem.
peace out, everybody. We'll
Take
see
care,
you later.
dude.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Oh my goodness.
No, it was memorable when I was on, because somehow in the conversation, these both Undoomed and Magog are big Star Trek fans, and somehow we hit in the conversation upon the idea of a totally politically incorrect Star Trek, and we we came up with this idea of sort of redneck Hicks running a spaceship, and
Right.
how can I say, his various southern accents suddenly came to life, and yes, it's something worth hearing. Is all I can say. Anyway, moving on.
Fair enough. I'm just going to read the last two super chats, and then I'll have one more story to round us out this evening. We'll get about a 2.5 hour episode, I'm sure. So DRT is King says the solution to the migrant crisis is simple: let the U-boats prowl the Med. And on a similar vein, Pyrrhus of Epirus says, I have an image in my head of massive batteries of M777 creating vast empty areas in Mexico. It's glorious. So 40k, I want this now. So thank you for that genocidal image, Pyrrhus of Epirus, and DRT is King. Always appreciate it. Now I have my moment of what shall we call it? A wholesome story to round us out. So this is called My Toy Walrus Waited 25 Years in the Arctic.
What?
Okay.
So let me read it to you.
I am suitably intrigued.
A remote Arctic island makes an unusual honeymoon destination, but for one couple it was perfect. Walruses huddle in blubbery bonhomie, apparently this is a word, almost overflowing the little ice islands on which they float. They nudge and... What's this expression?
Oh, please continue.
I'm just like bonhomie or something, I don't know. They nudge and scratch, gnarled brown skin and elegant ivory tusks glistening in the Arctic sun. I am watching from a chartered icebreaker, one of just a handful of ships a year, to visit Wrangel Island in the Arctic Ocean, the northernmost UNESCO World Heritage Site. Wrangel is of crucial importance to wildlife, especially polar bears, many of whom breed here. We see them from the deck of a ship, or from a distance on land, roaming creamy-furred and curious across ice and tundra. Herds of musk ox stare from beneath grey curved horns. Whales meander the coastal waters, and giant puffins flap from craggy cliffs. It's a spectacular...
Discordia, have you any idea where this is going?
No, I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Look,
please continue.
you should simply enjoy the ASMR that is my dulcet toned voice. It's a spectacular place, Britisher, but harsh too, Disco. There are no permanent human residents on this treeless Arctic island that lies off the coast of Siberia, deep in a tightly controlled military zone of the Russian Far East. It's not the sort of place you expect to find a young urban couple on honeymoon. I first spot Julia and Daniel, just visible through the thick fog, freezing rain, and a sea of rusting metal, at the island's appropriately named former military base, Doubtful Bay. But I don't get to talk to them until they appear aboard our ship, hitching a lift back to the mainland and revelling in the comfort of a cosy cabin and fresh food. I must have looked a little incredulous when they said they were on honeymoon, because Daniel laughed. I know, he said. Our friends at home in Moscow just didn't understand it either, so we made it a joke and said we were coming to look for Julia's lost toy. Julia, it transpires, spent the first 5 years of her life on Wrangel, which then had a small civilian settlement. Her father, a scientist, was studying snow geese, of which I've been fortunate to see a feeding flock, just a fraction of the million-strong population now present. When she was 5, Julia was sent to visit her grandmother in Moscow, thought it was for a few days' holiday and that she would soon be back, and didn't take her favourite toy, a fluffy little walrus that her father had given her. Unfortunately, her parents were splitting up, and Julia never returned to Wrangle. For a quarter of a century, she says, I dreamed of my island and my walrus. Finally, as she contemplated starting her own family, she decided she had to return there. But it wasn't the simplest place of travel planning. Daniel, himself a scientist, secured a 3-week stint volunteering on the island, and they decided to take this as their honeymoon. Honeymoon, imagine if there was such a thing. Daniel's first job was to renovate an old wooden cabin that turned out had been the last place that Julia's father had lived. They found the family home too, now derelict, explored the island, drinking in its raw beauty and coming too close to comfort to a polar bear. They saw walruses, but not Julia's toy. But sitting one evening with one of the island's handful of seasonal rangers, Julia and Daniel told him the story of how Julia departed the island, leaving her beloved toy behind. Oh, said the ranger casually, we found that. Julia and Daniel didn't believe him, but the next morning he appeared, clutching in his gloved hand a fluffy toy walrus. I didn't cry then, says Julia, her eyes welling, but now tears roll down her smiling cheeks as she holds up a small brown toy with soft, creamy tusks. There we go. That is the wholesome story of the evening. I'll even put the picture of the walrus up on stream for everyone to see, if you give me just a second. But yeah, what do you think of that, guys? It's kind of sweet, isn't it?
Very wholesome.
I am touched.
Truly a touching story. I'm just gonna.
Although through all the description of the beauty, I was thinking there's no amount of beauty that would make me want to go somewhere that cold.
You've had enough of that. You're not.
You're like, no. There are no coats warm enough.
There is nothing. Good grief, that's quite much. There is a small, fluffy toy walrus for everyone who has sat through an entirety of 2.5 hours of Fake Accents Unite. I truly appreciate everyone who's turned up this evening. Very many thanks to my guests, both to Discordia. We'll have to have you on again soon.
Thanks for having me.
And for the Britisher, who turns up tirelessly pretty much every week, and for whom I am profoundly grateful to share this little stream and podcast with. Thank you for coming, sir.
Oh, it's been an honour and a privilege as usual.
So there we are. Until next time, I will see you all next week for Fake Accents Unite. Hopefully we shall also have Atrocity Project in at some point this week. I've just been rushed off my feet, unfortunately, dealing with things, an unexpected run-in with Tommy Robinson over the weekend, that perhaps I will inform people about more on those streams. Thank you very much to everyone for coming. I don't have any more super chats. No, I don't think so. Marvellous. Take care, everyone. Good night, and have a great week.